My name is Bruce Gibson, otherwise known as the Gizz. That's the Gizz. I'm speaking to you from the Howard Spirit Shop here in Howardsport on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I'm bringing you another version of Tale of the Grape. What I'd like to talk to you about today is how to choose a wine when you're purchasing from the retail establishment you go to. There are a number of questions that I, as a clerk, as a retailer, would ask you in order to narrow in on what I would tend to sell you or suggest that you purchase. Number one would be, what's your purpose of the wine you're buying? Is it to take to somebody's house for dinner? If that answer is yes, are you going to have that wine for that night, or are you going to bring it as a house guest for them to have later? I always recommend that bring a wine that would work for that evening, and then if the people already had a wine that they've chosen for the night, then they can put it aside, and at a later date they'll have that wine just to see how good you were at your choices. So having said that, and let's pretend now that it is for the dinner for that night. The most normal question would be, do you know what they're serving? Sometimes people know that, and other times they're just going to show up and see what's being served. If they don't know, I say, well, why don't you give the person a call right now? Use my phone and just say, oh, by the way, what are we serving tonight? You might get an answer, you might not. Let's pretend you did get an answer. Okay. Typically, the rule of thumb with wine, you've probably heard it before, is red wine with the red food, white wine with white food, and rosé with anything, just about anything. So, let's say it's going to be a meat dish of some sort, braised, charcoal, stewish, something along those lines, but a red meat to boot. I would then suggest bring a wine that you haven't had before, that isn't very well known, maybe a different grape variety, a different region of the world. And for that reason, you're going to learn something, the people you're going to see will learn something, and it'll be a fun experience as well. What is really nice is if there's either enough people, or the people like wine enough, that you bring two different bottles. Some people say, oh, well, I can't mix wines. Well, yes, that's what wine tastings are about, is being able to taste different wines with different foods. So I'm going to go, at least on this show, I'd like to go under the assumption that a red wine is going to be purchased for the evening. I've picked out a couple of wines that I would recommend. And it's just wines that I happen to have, I love, I think are great values, and are very representative of the regions and the grapes that they are. One of them would be a Gigondas, and this is a Domaine Bousquet. It's a Gigondas from the Côte d'Aron region. What most people don't realize is that a Gigondas come from the Rhone district is mostly made up of Grenache grape. I've had people say, Grenache? Doesn't Grenache make rosé? Well, yes, Grenache does make rosé at some points of time, but generally it's a red wine making grape. Like many grapes, most grapes that are red, they can be free run, the juice can be free run to make white wine or blush wine, but the Grenache is generally speaking, a red wine making grape. So that's the Gigondas. Another wine from the Rhone region, grape, also some Cinsault. The area is the Rhone region. Most people have heard about the Rhone district in France. It's south of Burgundy, north of Avignon, or Avignon is actually the southernmost part of the Rhone. People know Avignon because it was where the papacy was around the 1100s, and the Pope at the time, one of his favorite wines was a wine that comes from the vineyards that surrounded one of the summer homes of the Pope. That's what Châteauneuf-du-Pape is, the ninth house of the Pope. Chateau 9 Neuf de Pape, house number 9 of the Pope. And to be a Châteauneuf-du-Pape, it has to be made up of a certain segment of grapes, percentage of grapes from that district. So that's another one.
Where are your ports?
This wine here is Chateau de Sancerre. Now Sancerre is a Pinot Noir that comes from the Loire region. Most Pinot Noirs from France come from Burgundy. This happens to be a Loire Valley Pinot Noir. The only red wine from Sancerre is Pinot Noir, and this is from Chateau de Sancerre, superb example of Pinot Noir from that region. Another wine. Now, white wines go with white foods, and I'm going to get into that one in a different version. But I did want to touch upon this particular wine here. As you see, it's salmon in color, pink in color, blush, peach, call it what you may. It is a Côte de Rhône. Again, it's made with the Grenache and Syrah. It's rosé in color, but what will fool almost everybody, it's a dry rosé. It has a little fragrance on the side of the tongue, on the side of the palate, but it's a dry finish. So an excellent wine to go with some lighter dishes, whether they're red, whether they're white, or whether it's ham. It's a great wine to go, especially in the summertime where you don't want to have maybe such a heavy wine. So keep that in mind. There are a lot of dry rosés on the market. This is one that I think is great. All right, today, or I should say tonight, I'm going to try each one of these 3 wines, and I will get back to you on how I like them. I've actually had them before, so I know that I like them, but I'm going to have them again because I like them so much. So, I'm the Gizz, talking to you from the Howard Spirit Shop, and we'll see you again with another tale of the grape. Thank you.